and welcome everyone to the Veterans Panel, Veteran Health and how psilocybin can help. And this discussion brings together veterans, clinicians, and advocates to explore how psychedelics may support mental health and trauma recovery. And instead of reading the rest of that, it's up there on the screen, and I'm just going to turn it over so they can get started. Welcome.
Hey, thank you everybody for showing up. First off, I wanted to thank Aaron Witter and the Psychedelic Society for inviting us. My name is Troy Leonard. I'm the CEO of Valor Minds. And today, our biggest thing that we're going to come across are the biggest mental health problems and bringing awareness to veteran health, psychedelics, and the role that plays. I'm going to hand it over to Joe. Have you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Joe Canson. I'm a veteran benefits advocate with CRF and a couple other veteran organizations. My goal is to help as many veterans as I can, if that's getting information out, letting them know what kind of benefits are available to them, and meeting new people like yourself. That's gotten me more into the psilocybin world. So thank you. Thanks for bringing me here. It's hard holding those.
Hey all, my name is Mark Cunningham. I am in private practice as a licensed marriage and family therapist, and also one of the natural medicine facilitator and training licenses for psilocybin. And I'm up in Fort Collins, Colorado. I serve a lot of vets, first responders, with my contract with first responder trauma counselors as well. So going from being an MP in the Army and in Afghanistan to becoming a therapist, using psilocybin as well as MDMA, as well as ayahuasca and other medicines and other modalities have all been really pivotal to who I am and where I am at today. So I'm really honored to be here. Thank you so much, Aaron, and thank you so much everyone here for joining us.
My name is Elise. I'm still in the Navy Reserves, have been in for 6 years. I'm currently in my last year of a master's program for clinical counseling. I'm in an internship that is licensed to work with medicine, including psilocybin, so that's been pretty great. Psychedelic assisted therapy is my passion, and I've personally worked with quite a few medicines for my own journey as well.
Hello, I'm Christine, and wasn't supposed to be on the panel, but I jumped in today. A veteran reservist in the Army. I served from 2002 to about 2011, deployed to Iraq as civil affairs specialist and worked with a lot of local Iraqis. I was also deployed to Kosovo during their independence from 2007 to 2008. That was more peacetime and community building. I'm also part of what's called Veterans Yoga Project. I'm a yoga teacher for veterans online and have been since 2018, and just started my journey with psychedelics, microdosing, and becoming more present. And I've tried a number of modalities, breath work, yogic practice, and a number of other ones. Thanks. It's great to hold to.
Yeah, and I actually forgot to kind of introduce myself. I'm the CEO of Valor Minds. We help veterans with PTSD through psilocybin therapy. I was a Marine for 4 years, did two tours to Afghanistan. And if I mess this all up, just know I was a Marine. And, and I was an 0811, which is artillery. And then they called us gun rocks. So that kind of goes with how this is probably going to go. But thank you guys for showing up. I know it's Sunday and everybody's probably wanting to watch the Broncos game. But maybe next time. All right, so the first question I want to ask everybody is, what are the biggest hangups and problems that veterans are going to go through for mental health? And what are the role of psychedelics? Who'd like to take this one?
I have something to say. So still being in currently, and I'm also a behavioral health technician myself in the Navy, so I am the one that's also in service providing behavioral health treatments, and a lot of people who are still in are very reluctant to seek mental health treatment because there are certain conditions that could potentially get you discharged. And so you know, it's a battle. It's like we're in this world where we're trying to normalize seeking mental health. Yet, if you do, there is the potential for, you know, leaving the service or getting kicked out of the service and not having your benefits. So I think that's a huge barrier for at least those who are still in the service for seeking mental health treatments, especially including psychedelics. They're still technically class 1 scheduled substance, which I think all of us here will probably disagree that that's where that needs to be. And, you know, hopefully things change soon, and that's another conversation. But even the military, as of this month, is going to start testing for psilocybin in drug tests, which is brand new, which is, part of my language, fucked up. You know, if if microdosing is something that really helps you, regardless of macrodosing, now that's inaccessible for those folks, which is really, really sad, and may have to wait, you know, till they get out. And so, yeah, that's where my mind goes with this question.
So glad you were the first one to cuss.
I am a sailor.
So thankfully, there's been some significant changes. Actually, I think it was maybe a week ago, the APA finally acknowledged soul wound or moral injury is now a Z code. So we don't have to just fall under PTSD if we're navigating the moral, existential, spiritual issues of being in war, and being in wars that maybe are unjust, or wars that are really conflicting to our moral foundation, whether it's your direct experiences or things you observed or were a part of. And so for me, that's what's been most helpful in regards to how plant medicines, fungi medicines have helped me to get beyond this brain-body being, and to have a much broader understanding of our collective, and also a much broader appreciation for where I was born, into a particular time, place, culture, military family, and to start exploring and unpacking the conditioning that shaped my drive to volunteer to serve, and also to volunteer to go to war. So the other thing that, I really appreciate you bringing up the updates with the psilocybin testing. There's the bigger, broader cultural, I'm going to try my best to not get political, no promises, but the bigger cultural conversations we're having as a nation around like being strong, being tough, and being what we might label as weak, or being sensitive, right? And how do we figure out how to do that as a people, as a nation, as a military, is really being debated and argued. Psychedelics really teach a lot about that balance, and that's another like 3-hour talk, so I'm gonna just pause there.
So just to piggyback off what she had just said, I had no idea that they were going to start doing that for people in service. And I think the sad part is they care more about you taking something that might possibly help you than they do. I mean, they'll be the first ones to be like, hey, you want some SSRIs? Like, take this instead of this thing that, we could study, we could, see if it's actually helping veterans that are dealing with TBIs, PTSD, things like that. And while I was deployed in Afghanistan, I received a TBI myself, and that, along with PTSD, coming back and dealing with that, the first thing that the VA did was try to give me SSRIs. And I knew, just basic information about all these things, so I started doing a little bit more research. And I'm of the mind of, if I can take something that's natural, that comes out of the ground, I'm gonna try that, test that myself before I'm gonna let a psychologist or something like that be like, all right, we're just gonna tweak this and add a little bit more of that, and we don't know if it's gonna work or what it's gonna do, but start taking this, and don't automatically quit taking it. So there's a bunch of things that come with taking SSRIs compared to psilocybin mushrooms and things like that, anything having to do with like psychedelics, that really brought me into that. I wouldn't recommend people only taking psilocybin mushrooms without doing a little bit of research as far and adding other things like therapy. We were talking a little bit ago about CBT, cognitive processing therapy. That, along with taking psilocybin mushrooms, microdosing made a gigantic difference for me, and it helped me process things that, you know, I thought might have been a big deal at the time, not being able to go into certain areas because of how anxious I would get, and not feeling like I could go into certain buildings or places without a concealed carry, because I feel like, what if something happens? Like, what am I going to do if, like, a terrorist or something comes into the building? As crazy as it sounds, like something that wouldn't happen, to me, I hadn't gotten through, you know, trauma or whatever you want to call it, of PTSD and yet, and I'm still not 100% through it or anything, but the stuff that I've been doing lately has helped me work through that, and I think therapy along with microdosing is what has put me in the place that I am today, and helped me process these things a lot easier. So I feel like this is something the VA could do. I mean, it's crazy that they started testing for that. It's like, what's the point? You know, like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to have a soldier just sitting there being ridiculously introspective of himself, like in the corner. It doesn't make sense to me, but that's a fun fact I didn't know, and I'm glad. You know, this is why I like doing stuff like this, because it gets information out there that a lot of people don't know about, and it's because of people like us that are willing to come out and talk about it that we might actually be able to make some changes, and hopefully the VA hears things like this and, you know, might start looking at, you know, instead of automatically talking about giving somebody SSRIs, they're like, you know what, let's try this natural thing. Let's maybe add this with some therapy and see what we come out with. And worst that happens is, you know, they have some extra therapy and they've taken some psychedelics, you know, aside from, you know, you might get suicidal ideation, or you know, all these negative things that come with SSRIs and other things like that. Maybe try something that's natural before, you know, going into just chemical messing around with people's brains. That's just my opinion, so I'd love to hear more of you guys'. Thank you.
I can speak briefly on it. Not necessarily, I can't really speak too much about barriers, but I can communicate what I'm hearing from veterans that I teach in yoga classes, and kind of where we saw it before yoga was in the VAs, and acupuncture and chiropractic guided meditations. I was attending a lot of conferences with VA professionals there, and we all wondered, what would it be like to have yoga and acupuncture and all these other wholeness modalities available? So I wonder if that's where we're at right now with psychedelics, and one day we'll be like, here we are, it's there. But a lot of the veterans that I teach in my yoga classes that have tried synthetic medications for, a lot of them are Vietnam vets and then Desert Storm veterans. There's very few from my generation, when I was in Iraq in 2004 and 5, they tend to stay away a little bit more, or they will seek outside organizations. I am starting to see more of my generation coming, and a lot of them have told me that they have slowly been able to let go of synthetic medication that they've been taking, because the breath work, the meditation, the yogic practice, the acupuncture has been helping, as well as marijuana, medicinal marijuana, as well as microdosing. And when I attempted the microdosing, because I'm cautious, I want to have the experience with professionals that I haven't had a chance to do, or there's a barrier for me to do that. It has put me in a present state where I can find joy, and the cloud is lifted, and that's what some of the veterans I teach have told me, is they're like, the cloud on my brain feels like it's lifted, and I feel like myself again. And for some of the Vietnam vets, that's a big one. So I don't, you know, maybe we're just at the beginning of it. Thank you.
It's probably one of my favorite things about veterans is we have different generations, different wars we all fought. And I speak at a lot of VFWs and American Legions. and it always cracks me up. I'll have the Korean war vets and the Vietnam vets looking at me. They're like, "Ah, you're just a druggie. Like, you're just over there wanting to get high." Then I'll talk to the Persian Gulf, GWAT veterans, and they're usually more like, "This is sick. We should all be doing this." And it always just cracks me up. I went to the wrong VFW one time and was giving a speech, and I asked them, I was like, they're kind of looking at me like, I was like, "Do you guys have any questions?" They're like, "You should get out of here, druggie." I was like, "All right, I'll see you guys later." But I also have a tiny, tiny little attention span. So that was quite a bit of information brought out. Do we have any questions on this subject? Crickets, okay.
Do they test for LSD?
No.
So
So-
they could microdose LSD?
Yes, it's harder to do, but yes,
Sure.
that's possible. Originally, up until this point, all of traditional psychedelics or the class of hallucinogens have not been on drug tests. But old white men in power, especially in the military, have an ego and feel like, oh, now this is coming up, as if this hasn't already been a thing. If there were problems, they would have already shown up.
Right.
But, now that especially psilocybin is being shown, for all these amazing things, now it's something to look at. And so now it's something that they're targeting. But it's specifically psilocybin. As of right now, it's no other psychedelics or plant medicines.
Wait, they're still testing for cannabis, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
They've been testing that since I was in. Like, they started doing that long time ago. Yeah, the big problem with that too is now that they're doing that, it's only going to be a matter of time before they start testing police, first responders, and firemen. And Valor Minds, we do a lot with fire departments around here when they're on their off time, because a lot of PTSD, that we help microdose, teach them how to microdose. And that's when she told me that about a month ago that they're going to start testing, and I was like, "Ooh, it's going to come down the ladder." And thank you for your question, by the way.
Isn't it because of the duration of which a substance stays in your system though? So like cannabis can stay in your system for up to 21 days. So what I have heard through the VA is that there's like a window of when they can test. And I used to work in oil and gas, and things like meth don't stay in your system for too long. Alcohol doesn't stay in your system, so you can go over the weekend and have your fun, but things like cannabis and other substances that stay in your system for longer is the reason that they have the ability to test.
Yeah, I mean, there's always ways to get around things. I knew a lot of Marines that were getting around things. I mean, my unit was so bad that they started breathalyzing us in the mornings. Got me a couple times. But a big thing on that is the window of opportunity, and meth is a scary one. We didn't really have that problem in the Marines when I was in, but I've heard stories that it's making a comeback. Anybody want to add on to that?
I have a question. Do you guys know if ibogaine is something that they test for, or if that's something that they've been implementing? I've talked with a couple veterans that have been a part of new programs that they're starting to help reset those not synapses, but what's the word I'm looking for?
Nerve endings. Nerve connections.
Yeah, well, just more or less that ibogaine. I know ibogaine's been known to help people dealing with addiction and things like that.
Opioid receptors.
Yes, opioid receptors. Thank you. And I was just curious if that's something that the military itself is, or the VA is pushing forward. If that's something that they're trying to build up.
So not yet. The thing is, yet. I don't know, probably, now that there's a lot of funding set aside for ibogaine research, which I will actually be sitting with in a week myself.
Nice.
So I hope not. But as of right now, not yet. Including other natural medicines such as mescaline and such, those aren't necessarily included on drug tests. It's just psilocybin, but not ibogaine, not mescaline, not peyote. So
What about DMT?
that stays in your system for such a short period of time. It would be out of your system unless you're doing it.
But I'm curious because
wouldn't
a lot of
show
the times they connect those to ibogaine and DMT,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
I was just curious if any of those programs implement that as well.
Yeah, DMT wouldn't show up on a test as of right now.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Can I ask, what is the punishment if you do test pot? Do you get released from the military?
Kind of depends on your unit, but most time you're out. That's how I was in. There was zero tolerance
Do you have
on most
dishonorable
things.
discharge?
Dishonorable
Yes,
discharge.
Or
Dishonorable.
other than honorable.
Yeah, there's
And-
other than honorable that you really have to fight to get that one.
Thank you.
Sometimes they'll put you in like a treatment facility or like a program specifically to help you with your whatever addiction you might have. But I mean, I've met soldiers that have, like they were saying, dishonorably discharged or other than honorable discharge without even putting them through therapy, or sometimes they don't even do that for people with alcohol addiction. So
Thank you.
I think psilocybin is out of the system by 24 hours later, so it doesn't last as long as cannabis and other things.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those based on units too. And I mean, psilocybin testing is pretty expensive and it comes down to unit budget. So we'll see what units are actually going to test for it. And it's probably just going to be a big political statement of like, stop doing this. We could test you. That's my take on that. Because even like when I was in, it was spice was a big thing. They're all about cracking down on spice and they've never tested us for it. But they're like, we could do it.
Do you guys collaborate at all with state of Texas ibogaine program right now when they have 15 million invested in research of ibogaine for veterans?
are you asking if there's a program in Colorado for it
If
or
you
in the
guys
military?
collaborating with the state of
Cooperating.
Texas ibogaine program?
Not personally.
Not personally, but I have a
Yeah.
couple of friends. There's some initiatives here in Colorado that are trying to push it.
I want to do that. So if you guys know anybody that is doing that, I am 100% up
I have
for that.
Get you in
connections.
touch, yeah.
We're gonna
I
chat.
have their email address, but I sent them an email and nobody answered. You can try to get
Thank you.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 companies I know of out of Denver that are pushing it, and kind of the Denver Psychedelic Society is a big advocate. They put a lot of lobbyists into this, but right now you have to do it at the state level, and then once we have more states, we'll go to the federal level.
So from what I understood, ex-governor,
Polis, down in Texas?
in Texas,
Yeah.
met with Governor Polis and they collaborating on this
Yeah.
in Colorado.
Yeah, it's gonna have to come up with the sessions. It'll be a vote.
I know
like the same thing with psychedelics.
Colorado has a program for ibogaine.
Yeah.
I imagine it's probably the one that you're working with.
It is.
Yeah, and I also want to just point this out. The VA isn't
In
testing.
process.
It's the military.
Yeah,
So those-
active.
Yeah, active military. The VA doesn't. Well, the experience I've had is the therapists I work with. They can't tell you to come try psychedelics, but they're really interested in how that works. And I work with the vet center. I go to therapy there. They work with me, and it's free for veterans if you have, I think, more than 50% disability.
So I think the original question, remind me, was around barriers, was it? Or is that coming up?
That's coming up.
Oh, I'm ahead.
How dare you?
Both barriers and the biggest problem. Well, let's just start with that. The barriers within the veteran community, unless we have more questions. Anything else? Let's start with the barriers with the veteran community and how that's kind of playing out right now.
Thank you.
Ping pong.
Little segue, yeah. So I want to keep kind of weaving my lens around moral injury and how that robs folks of a sense of trust in themselves and others, and the systems that may have helped contribute or co-contribute to those experiences, and how that, whether that's conscious or subconscious, creates some what I like to think of as protector parts of the psyche that are like, stay the hell away, avoid, or how do I build trust with you as my clinician, as my facilitator, as my therapist? How do I know that you've gone through the same level of questioning the conditioning you've been a part of, and that you've had like a whole different journey of like reckoning with what you've been a part of? or not? And then if not, then why would I give you the time of day to go into my shit, my parts, and my world? So I think about that in addition to like how that ties into the barriers to access psychedelic treatment in a very sterile lab environment within the VA if and when they do start adopting more, which I know there's a lot of regional cultural differences from VAs, and I have a lot of friends that are therapists in the VAs and that are really rooting for these to be brought in to make them paid for by these systems, to make them more accessible. So yeah, that's where, a lot of a lot of veterans would much rather, and myself included, when I was with a group of vets and we had a group of facilitators and there was veterans that were part of the facilitators, that allowed me to have a much deeper trust in the container for me to move through and express some like repressed rage from combat that like I didn't trust other therapists would be able to hold space for, which was my own shit, my own judgments, as well as like that's what felt good for a braver, safer, stronger container. And everyone's got these dynamics, regardless of what population identity you might, come from, and around how that builds safety for your unique lens and experience.
Do you guys want to add anything under that? A bit of barriers?
Said what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add other than how important what you just said is. Having a facilitator that is a veteran or has some kind of experience around that, I think would open a lot of trust. Myself personally, I've sat with a lot of different therapists and I didn't have that connection, and so I would move on to a different therapist. And sometimes I would connect with one that wasn't, but maybe had a family member, and so understood a little bit more. But I think what you said is really important.
It's easier to talk when you speak the same language.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I think as far as barriers go for veterans, in my view, I think one barrier a lot of people don't talk about is veterans themselves. A lot of veterans talk themselves out of going to the VA to get help. A lot of veterans, they'll come up with whatever excuse it is on why they don't want to get help. I don't want to take away from Jim Bob that got his legs blown off or whatever it may be. And that's something us as the veteran community need to work on ourselves and inform a lot of veterans. A lot of these VAs they get money allocated to them from, head honcho VA. Every time you go into the VA, you're telling them, hey, we need to allocate more money to this VA. We have more veterans coming in. And that's how we get more money allocated to help with programs, whether or not it's something with therapy, psilocybin, or building ramps leading up to their house if they're in a wheelchair, getting them a wheelchair. And most of it's veterans not even knowing that programs are out there. A lot of veterans don't even consider themselves veterans. I didn't deploy, I'm not Rambo. Neither am I. But all these programs are open to me, you, and all the veterans that are sitting up here today and everybody else out there. And just getting that information out there to these veterans and letting them know, hey, this stuff is here for you. You signed your name on the dotted line. You did what less than 1% of Americans have ever done. That in itself is a big deal. You signed your name on there to be cannon fodder, if so be it. And even if you didn't do anything within that certain amount of time that you were in the military, doesn't matter. These programs are for you. These benefits are for you. Veterans make up less than 7% of Americans. So we need to get this information out there and help those veterans move past those barriers that they're putting up themselves. Because there's, on top of the barriers we put up for ourselves, there's so many other barriers that are in our way aside from that. So that would be something I would want to point out as far as barriers go.
Any questions from the crowd?
So the biggest barrier that I see in psilocybin industry right now is there's no customers. We have in Colorado 14 healing centers, whatever, 400 facilitators in only 25 sessions. So I think, let's just say hypothetically, 50% of population probably has some need for psilocybin, but only 25 sessions in the whole Colorado. In veteran community, probably 80 or 90% of people will need help, will benefit from help. So what you described is exactly the same. So if we figure out that portion, we'll figure out the other portion too.
No, I completely agree. I think one of the issues with that is a lot of veterans don't know that this stuff is available for them. You know, they don't know that it's an option, or, you know, it's that Vietnam vet that's like, I ain't no druggie, you know, so I think it's a lack of information getting out to them. So hopefully doing more stuff like this is gonna help with that. And you regret it?
I was just gonna say I completely agree with you, and not so much in regards to veterans, but just in general accessibility. Like, this field is super inaccessible for people right now, especially because there's a lot that's unregulated where people can charge whatever they want. And so I think the biggest barrier that I'm seeing at like my internship side is, even though we are a healing center and that like my coworkers are now facilitators, it's like no one has, you know, a few grand to just drop for a series. I think financial barriers are the biggest things that I'm personally seeing. So, but I agree.
Go ahead, sir.
Hey there, yeah, my name's Ken Weingart from Heroes Hearts Project.
Yeah.
And we obviously operate in the same space. I just wanted to share a kind of an observation about barriers, and one that my friend Jared Reinhardt just kind of taught me about, which is the veteran culture and values that make you strong warriors and get you through combat situations can get in the way of asking for help. And so that's just something that we kind of forcing, and that don't let that hold you back. That you have to do this all yourself. Like, be able to reach out and let other veterans in to help you, right? And since I got the floor, please come to our website and check out Heroic Hearts. We do send people to international and domestic retreats to at very minimal cost to them. So we're trying to solve that access problem as best we can.
Yeah, I was going to give you guys a shout out at the very end because I love what you guys do. I have you guys.
And the
Your
Health
psychedelic
Project.
And
For
the whole
spouses.
project, lest we forget. Thank you. The whole project is about veteran spouses and families and helping them get psychedelic.
Yeah, and I was that veteran. I was like, just keep your head down, keep pushing. You don't have to. Just get through this next year. Get through this next year.
Yeah,
And
well,
don't ask for help.
And it served you so well, right? In the service.
I'm here
so
now.
It's difficult to get that, to let that go, and it's a real challenge, but one that we can overcome together.
Exactly. I love that. Any other questions? Because this is a perfect segue into my next, and probably my favorite part of talking about this, is the veteran community and how important just being part of the community is for your mental health and also with the psilocybin culture. Who would like to go first? Talking about how important the community is. I was about to say you better jump on this one.
No, I completely agree. Community is very important to veterans, and it should be more important to veterans. There's so many foundations, so many groups that are out there specifically to help vets that, you know, like we said before, the information just might not be getting to them as much as it should be. One of the programs myself and Mark work with is Combat Recovery Foundation. Their goal, they do a lot of peer support things. They help with suicide. We do a lot of stuff. I myself, I'm a veteran benefits advocate. I help veterans navigate the VA system, finding out what benefits are out there for them, which is an obstacle in itself. And these guys do nothing but help vets. At the end of every month, we do a camp out thing over the last weekend of every month. I go out there as much as I can. It's beautiful. It's up at the Sylvandale Ranch up in North Loveland. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and it gets veterans together around other veterans, to talk about whatever. It's not saying, oh man, I made it through that PTSD I caught. It's going to be stuck with you forever. Like it's something you need to work through. And the best thing I think we can do is get veterans around other vets that have not made it through it, but found a way to work on the issues that they're dealing with on a daily basis. I might not be going through the same thing that you went through, anything like that, but I might have gone through something somewhat akin to what you have gone through, and I can share some things that might help you, or you might share some things that might help me work through issues that I'm dealing with myself. So getting veterans out of their house around other vets is one of my number one goals. So community is the most important thing. It's what we all thrive on. We miss our tribes. Like and I mean tribes in a good way. Like when you're in the military, you feel like you have that sisterhood, brotherhood, whatever it may be. And the guy next to me, we might not agree on everything, but I know he'd take a bullet for me. I know I would take a bullet for him. I would hope, but no. It's just good knowing that you have that feeling when you're in the military of this person is here for me and has my back. And when you get out of the military, it's kind of like you're searching for that. I know a lot of veterans are searching for that. And a lot of these groups, Combat Recovery Foundation, Northern Colorado Veterans Network, helping get veterans together with other veterans is something that we should all strive to do.
Something that was really amazing, my brother and fellow Afghanistan veteran formed a veteran writing workshop. I cannot tout the benefits of that enough. We had Vietnam vets, male, female, OIF, OEF, and we would come together and just sometimes we would just write and we just free associate, just write whatever the hell comes out. Other times that would turn into writing about, stories of integration, stories of struggle, stories of humor, dark humor, all the things. And that really started to kind of chip away for me at some of the misconceptions I had and judgments I had about my veteran peers that would maintain more isolation, maintain more of these stories of I'm the hippie anthropology undergrad, no one's gonna understand this soldier, they're all different from, and so when we would get together and write, I'd start to see parallel experiences and just opening up our hearts and minds. And so, yeah, if anyone wants information on that, happy to share.
The leading factor for suicide is isolation. And so I think for veterans, it is that much more important to have community. One aspect of intersectionality, student veterans, veterans who go back to school and they're 10, 15 years older than all their counterparts. Sometimes, how isolating must that feel if you don't have your community, just in this example. I would never underestimate the power of community and funding that goes towards veteran resource centers on campuses. I work at the Veteran Service Center at my school, and so we throw multiple community outreaches so those who may not want to come around have options. And I feel like even just knowing that they're welcome to all of the community events that we throw, have to mean something. So yeah.
So when I came back from my first deployment in 2005, I was in grad school. I had to start grad school over twice. The military helped me pay for it. And when I came back the first time, I felt completely invisible and isolated. Nobody cared about what I just went through. And then when I deployed again in 2007 to 8, came back in 2008, and finally was able to finish my degree, I wasn't with my cohort anymore. But there was a difference. There was more people talking about it. There was an organization on my campus at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis called Warriors to Citizens. And then a student, a peer of mine, came to me and asked if I would be a part of an oral history project to talk about some stories. And that was where I finally started to feel like people were noticing, that my peers were noticing. I spent a lot of time feeling pretty isolated from those deployments, and I also went back as a civilian again to Iraq as a researcher for the government, and then I taught for USAID in Afghanistan as well. Those were civilian roles. I didn't start to feel that sense of community until I found the Veterans Yoga Project. And when I was very hesitant to be a part of that training because I knew I'd have to face and listen. We had to be taught what trauma does to your brain and your body. And I had huge realizations with that. And so that journey of finding the community and like experiencing that is super important, because as soon as I did, I was like, wow, okay, I'm not the only one. And stopped doing more harmful things to get or to cope through PTSD symptoms and started talking and connecting. And then when I moved to Colorado, I've been here 5 years, getting involved a little bit more with psychedelic societies and others that are doing it in safe ways. My yogic modalities or breath work, or I've done EMDR as well. Like, you have to be disciplined. You have to be disciplined to do these things, to work through it, and to be a part of a community to open up to. So I think community is super important.
Do we have any questions on this? We'll be wrapping up. Go ahead.
Do you have any collaboration with first responders, like the police, the fire department, EMTs?
I know my company does, Valor Minds, but we also have to kind of keep that on the down low because it's based on each police department and fire department. They don't really like to be public about it either because it's still such a hush-hush thing.
Why are you asking?
I'm just curious because you seem to have a lot of traumatic experiences within the military, as well as the first responders that I've worked with have similar experiences, not in a warlike setting, but in everyday kind of combat with their roles.
Absolutely.
So there's power in numbers, and so if it's something that could be, a program for anybody that's in those positions, might be helpful.
The one thing that I'm aware of is I know a lot of retreat spaces for military are also open for first responders. A lot of that overlaps, and I think that helps make this medicine more accessible. As far as on the smaller scale level, it's probably individual basis.
And I really appreciated my time with Heroic Hearts in the Amazon in Peru. It was an incredible experience. And they took a bunch of vets from across the nation, that whoever luckily kind of got into that cohort, to come together and to do 5 rounds of ayahuasca, and then to go home. And there was prep and integration calls, and I really like the idea around how can we have the local communities coming together to do groups to also decrease costs and increase accessibility, and also to increase the integration effectiveness outcomes, because there's already more belonging, not more fracturing again, because we can maintain and keep chatting and keep connecting. And I'd even like to do that with couples. I'm a good couples therapist, and the benefits for intimacy, right? Like, that's a big reason why there's so much suicide, is because of difficulties we have after war of having intimacy, whether that's emotional intimacy, physical, sexual intimacy. So like getting more couples to come together and to talk about how they're integrating this into their family or into their relationship, to normalize those conversations, feels imperative.
Another thing we want to remember, just going off of what you had said, is a lot of veterans. Did I just? Oh, okay. I thought I turned it off. A lot of veterans themselves go into police departments, fire departments, they're EMTs, they're paramedics, they're all of these first responder roles. A lot of them are vets that have been to war, have, gone through whatever it may be in their time in service. and maybe the police department or the fire department, like he's saying, isn't hey, let's give our guys some psychedelics, and they'll make it seem as if it is in the same category as something like meth or heroin and things like that. So I think we need to get over that hurdle first and get people to really understand that it is a medicine, like she was saying. I think once we do that, it'll make it a little bit easier to take all of those different groups and kind of bring them together.
Anything else from the crowd?
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, no problem. My business partner hates when I do this, but a big thing is kind of like we were talking about. Most people won't ask for help, especially if it's like a government agency or anything like that. So I always tell them my number is 970-227-0793. Just give me a call, text. I'll meet you anywhere. And that's been a huge thing. I've met about 1,000 people in the last year, and most times people just want to talk. But on our last note, go ahead.
Just a quick question. We all know that the popularity of those who serve the military, majority popularity are Native people. I wonder if you guys are in conversations with Native people, if there is any group of support. I understand in the military, community is really important. It's one of the cores of the Native people as well, right? And if there is any connection of bridging that you guys are doing, so you are uniting forces with these medicines who are stored by the Native people, and to actually also the privilege and the benefits that you guys are getting, right, and helping your brothers and sisters from the military to get to also those who have served, who are from the natives, knowing that that's the majority population that serves in this country.
I personally work with quite a few down in New Mexico, and now that they're starting to push the psilocybin being illegal or legal there, it's a lot easier for medicine men and stuff like that to be for young natives, and I hate speaking about this because I'm not a part of it, but they go to their medicine men a lot easier to get help than they would go to the VA. And that's what I've seen down in by Santa Fe and Clayton, New Mexico, because that's just where I'm from and work with a lot with them.
Thank you for that beautiful question, Andrea. Veronica Lightning Horse and I have started having more conversations. So I really, look up to her magic, and she held space for me while I was in a psilocybin journey. And so, we formed a beautiful connection. And my time in sweat lodge ceremonies has been absolutely such a gift. So I'm always looking forward to more opportunities and to have, veteran leadership in holding space alongside Shipibo shamans or various indigenous elders from all walks of life. Is definitely, I hope, where more and more is headed.
I think the only thing I would add as we close this out is shouting out a couple groups. Veterans Life magazine. It's a great magazine that puts a lot of different articles in there, whether it's talking about groups that are facilitating these type of things for veterans, whether it's Combat Recovery Foundation, Northern Colorado Veterans Network, Patent Veterans Project. There's so many programs and things out there specifically to help vets that Veterans Life magazine is putting in their magazines. So definitely check it out. If you know any veterans that need help with the VA system or need to navigate the VA system, find out what benefits are out there for them, contact CRF, contact VBS, Veteran Buddy System, contact Veterans Life magazine. There's a lot of information out there, and a lot of vets don't know it, and that is my only goal in life, is to help more vets. So send them our way. Thank you.
Also want to just thank everybody for coming here and listening to us, and thank Aaron Witter for inviting us and the Colorado Psychedelic Society.